For a long time now, I've been receiving requests to make a video showing how to make pizza dough. To date, I've not bothered because A, it's a pretty simple task in my opinion, and B, because there are already many videos on the topic. But in every one of my videos, I want to show people something that they won't see elsewhere. So I'm going to focus here on whole wheat crusts, and specifically how to maximize their flavor.
Into the bowl of the stand mixer, I'm going to put 200 milliliters of warm water and dissolve about a teaspoon of sugar in it. Now you can always feel it. If it's too hot, you can swirl it around a little bit and the cool sides of the bowl will absorb some of the heat and it'll lower the temperature back down again. As soon as it's just warm, you don't make it hotter to kill the yeast. Don't make it cold or the yeast won't activate. It has to be around just a little bit warmer than body temperature. So when you feel it, if it just feels lukewarm, you're ready. Then I'm going to put an entire package of dry active yeast in it. Really, you want to use live yeast. But I know that's becoming increasingly difficult to find. It really does do a much better job. Even I can't find it right now, though usually it's available here, but somehow at the moment there's some shortage, nobody's got it. So I'm using the dry yeast. And we're going to put a damp towel over this and let it stand for about 10 minutes. I'm going to check on it after a few minutes. Okay, when it looks like this, when it's foamed up, it's ready. It may not even take 10 minutes. Depends on the activity of the yeast. Yeah, we're ready for the next. So we've got the stand mixer set up with the dough hook on it. Yeast mixtures in there. We're going to put the first dose of this whole wheat flour is going to go into it. Get it started. We'll turn it on slow. Raise this up and let it begin to mix. You'll see pretty quickly it gets like this. And then you have to stop the mixer and scrape down the sides. Now I'm going to add some olive oil to this. And the salt. And you'll see that after another minute or two, it begins to start to form into a ball. Just let this run for a while. This is what you want to see. It's beating the dough around and doing the kneading for you. It's going to stay there doing this for a while. It's very hard to develop gluten in whole wheat flour. After about 5 minutes, what you'll tend to see is this sort of thing, where it's just spinning around, attached to the dough hook. So now what you have to do is you have to stop. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of regular all-purpose flour to it. Start it up again slowly. This will break it up again gradually. Let it keep going again though, longer. We're going to knead it in all for about 10 minutes. Here's what you see after a minute of adding that all-purpose flour. You can see it begins to come away from the dough hook and begins to get kneaded properly again. And if you have to stop it and get the dough out and reshape it, that's okay, you can do that. But after a few more minutes, it'll go back to this kind of process. And this is the last stage it's going to be in before we actually stop the mixer and give it a little bit of kneading by hand. Okay, we've got the dough now. I'm going to put it on a lightly floured surface. In the bowl, I'm going to put a little bit more olive oil and smooth it around because we're going to use this for the dough in just a second. I'm just going to make sure that it's kneaded well here. And I know a lot of people like to make it into this perfectly smooth, rounded ball. It won't make any difference in the end, I'm telling you. Yeah, I know, it violates the rules of traditional Italian pizza. There's absolutely no point in mastering that skill unless you're making a whole bunch of them and you need to portion them out in advance because you're going to sell it as a product. But we're not doing that here. We're just making this for home use. Okay. It's just slightly sticky, but not very. This is not American style pizza crust. This is more like a flatbread. Okay, this is fine. Goes into the bowl with the oil. I'm going to toss it around a little bit. Coat it. And I'm going to cover it with that same damp towel and let it stay. And after a couple of hours, you can see this is spread out. Now, this is not rising up the way that a regular white flour dough would rise, because there's not that much gluten in whole wheat flour. But you can still see that it's risen. I'm going to compress it a little, turn it around, put the damp towel back over it, and let it sit. Okay, it's been about 5 hours now. I don't know if you can tell this, but the dough's about twice the size that it was before, maybe a little bit more. Now, I'm going to put it into a container like this, and I'm going to put a lid on it, but I'm not going to, don't seal it completely, because it's going to continue to produce gases, and it'll end up blowing up the container. Put it like this. I've got one flap open here on this kind of container. You can use a different kind. This is going to go into the refrigerator now for 1 to 2 days. You're going to have to keep an eye on it, make sure that it doesn't overflow the container, but you want this to rise very slowly. Really good dough does not rise by heating it up and letting it go fast. You want it to go slowly. So that's what we're going to do. The rest of it's got a good start on it. It's lots of live yeast in there. Now it's going to go in the fridge and go slow. The amount of rise you'll get and how much it fills the container will actually largely depend on how much all-purpose flour you used and how little wheat flour. If you use all whole wheat, this will have very little rise in it, but it'll still taste better as it progresses in the refrigerator fermenting. If you used a lot of all-purpose flour, this will actually expand to overflow the container if you're not careful.
Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.